Over the weekend, war has broken out in the Middle East, and depending on your social media algorithm, you're being propagandized to have a certain viewpoint on if this is good or bad. We're going to go over most of those positions. And when it was announced that the leader of the Islamic regime was killed, the New York Times releases an article that is very rich when we reminisce on what they said about the former president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Thomas S. Monson. All this and more. My name is Jackson Wayne Paul, and welcome to Latter-day Saints.
What power shall stay the heavens from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the Latter-day Saints?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on this Monday morning that we have after a pretty crazy weekend. Personally, it was honestly pretty chill.
Yeah, I didn't wake up to anything crazy on Saturday morning.
Saturday morning was a little interesting, but then when I deleted all my social media apps and, stayed off my phone, crazy how much peace abides in your life.
Did you actually do that?
I did that, and I felt better.
Yeah, it's actually wild how much of the world doesn't affect you immediately. Now, will things affect you eventually? Potentially. But for now, the world's pretty peaceful in most places.
We're going to get into all of this, but thank you for returning to Latter-day Saints. If this is your first time viewing the channel, what we got going on here, my name is Jackson. Like I said in the intro, that's Brandon Russin. That's my big brother, Hayden Paul. And we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we run our mouths on the internet about current events and things happening specifically in the Latter-day Saint community or globally. And every once in a while, not every once in a while, I mean, most episodes, we're getting into the scriptures, and we got a lot to get into today. But I ask you, if you find value in the content that we produce, we ask that you subscribe every day around 2 p.m., depending on when
depending on how long it takes you to prep the show.
Yeah, it's
and my edits
not
on me
Brandon.
too, the editing.
But anyways, hit the subscribe button every day around 2 p.m. Good to go. But friends, I think it's safe to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's safe to say that we're in it. We're in the latter days, hence the name of the church that we attend and are members of. But even more so because it's so in our face with the advent of social media and just news in general, that once something is happening thousands of miles away over in a foreign country, we can know about it within minutes, which is pretty insane. And sometimes good, sometimes bad. But if we go to the words of Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 24, when he's talking about the end times, he says to his disciples, he says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. See that ye be not troubled. For all things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." Okay. So what Jesus is saying there, he says, look, there's going to be wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. That's kind of hard to do, but hey, Jesus, I'm going to trust in you. The first thing that I want to bring up with this entire Iran, U.S., Israel conflict is that you and I are being propagandized. Whether you think you are or not, your algorithm is propagandizing you to hold some sort of worldview. If you don't believe me, go ahead, pick up your friend's phone that has, maybe if you do have friends, which I hope people do, that have different political views than you, pick up their Instagram, pick up their X feed, and scroll through their algorithm.
It'll be totally different than what you're seeing.
Totally different, bro. You pick up Brando's and all it is weird like anime stuff and like cats, like AI cat videos of like meow, 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 meow. And then you pick up Hayden's and then it's just like war footage and stuff like that. And so here's what I'm saying. Every single person on the internet is being propagandized, okay? And it's important that we all recognize that, because once this first kicked off Saturday morning, I'll be honest. I get on my feed and I'm starting to get propagandized to every single leader of our nation is a warmongering evil person that is bought and paid for by the Israel Jewish lobby, and that this is an unrighteous war that is the result of years of warmongering. Okay?
The first post I saw was from Michael Knowles, and he said, "Don't believe anything you see on this app for the next, several days. Honestly, ever."
Yeah.
But
And one thing I will say is that if you are listening to this and you're like, yeah, everyone else is propagandized, I'm not, then you're the most propagandized. That means it's working the best on you. But no, we all have, based on our algorithms and who we follow, you're immediately going to get fed one side of the story.
Yeah.
And I think we all kind of, got fed that side really quickly.
Yeah. And so what I'll say is there may be some truth to that. And we're going to go through some videos and some other things that the people that are very angry with what's happening and very doubtful and dubious of Trump's intentions and everything like that, they may have legs to stand on. But if you've been living under a rock, basically what happened was early Saturday morning, just after midnight, Donald Trump posted a video announcing that major military operations have been conducted in Iran. And then what shortly followed after, in the coming hours after, it was announced that they successfully took out the Islamic regime leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. I can't.
Khamenei.
Yeah, Middle Eastern names I have a hard time with. But they basically took out the leader of the regime of Iran. Okay, and first thing I want to point out here, okay, if you look at the New York Times, what they posted about him, you'll think, yeah, this is interesting when I think back to how they announced the death of Thomas S. Monson. So if we click here, no, let's go to the Ayatollah one first.
I did not see this.
Yeah. So the New York Times, once it was announced that the United States took him out, the New York Times posts, Ayatollah Ali Al-Khamenei, hardline cleric who made Iran a regional power, dies at 86. Okay?
Hardline cleric
who made Iran a regional power.
Sounds like they're not. Yeah, sounds like they're not really attributing other important characteristics to him that maybe they should be.
Yeah. So from that, when I read that, it's like, oh, I mean, maybe he might have been a stern leader, but ultimately he made Iran a regional power. He dies at 86, right?
Yeah, he's a stern religious leader who
exactly.
Made Iran great again. It's kind of what it sounds like.
It's kind of the vibes of that right there. And then we go back, if we reminisce on what the New York Times announced about when Thomas S. Monson, the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, when he passed away, this is what they announced about his death. It said, Thomas S. Monson, the president of the Mormon Church who rebuffed demands to ordain women as priests and refused to alter church position to same-sex marriage, died Tuesday at 90. And so it's like,
that is absurd,
if
man.
you take the entire ministry of Thomas S. Monson and you summarize it with those two statements announcing his passing, understand now why I say everyone's being propagandized, okay? Because someone that doesn't have super kind feelings towards the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they're going to see that and be like, good riddance. Look at that bigot. He was a bigot. Yeah. And I'm glad he died. So you see there, I just wanted to highlight that there for people that find that.
Dude, and how did the Ayatollah go out? This is how the Ayatollah go out. This is just on a Google search. So according to the HRANA, the Human Rights Activist and News Agency, right? As of February 2026, over 6,400 adult protesters, 146 minor, and 57 non-participants were verified killed, with 214 security forces also reported in this year. So that's how Ayatollah is going out, right? And so that's how they're going to memorialize him in the New York Times. And then President Monson, who, as far as I know, never killed a soul and ministered to hundreds of widows throughout his whole career. Like from the point he was bishop until all of the widows died, he would visit them and talk to them.
Yeah, he was a veteran. He was a veteran that served in the armed forces. Like, and so if you don't think you're being propagandized, you're being propagandized, okay? And so there's a lot that can be said about this. People that have very strong feelings on both sides, and I have very strong feelings myself, and we're going to get into all of this because there was a press conference this morning with the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, that some problematic things were said. But first and foremost, I just kind of want to first look at the reaction from the Iranian people. Because me, as an American over here, that I've just seen some, stuff in the news, done my best to research the history between Iran and other countries in the region and with its own people and the regime, I can form my own opinions. But ultimately, I haven't lived in that country. I haven't experienced, the alleged tyranny that has been out there, and especially how multiple thousands of Iranians have been killed in the streets for protesting the regime.
And I wouldn't say alleged tyranny. It's confirmed tyranny. I mean, just look at women in the 60s and look at women now.
Yeah, true.
So it is an evil regime, and that's not something to be confused about.
Yeah,
exactly. Sorry, I don't know. I'm trying my best to be fair here, okay? Having not, been in Iran, and I'm not in Iran.
Well, the situation is still very confusing, and there is a lot of nuance. Like, why are we doing this? Why are... So, it's I get why you're...
And we'll get into all that. But if you look at videos across the internet, you're going to see a bunch that resemble stuff like this. So this is in New York just yesterday. Okay, pause this video, go to the next one. And there's been some that like this is in Australia, I believe. Good. And then the next one. And then just pretty much all over the world, there's just been mass like celebrations from Iranians. Okay.
I gotta say, they know how to party.
Did you have any videos of it happening in Iran?
So I found a couple, but then when I searched up like where these are coming from, because the only ones that my algorithm were feeding me were ones that allegedly they were calling for revenge against the Americans. But then when I looked it up, then it was a video from 2020, and it was being posed as something that was happening today. And so I wasn't able to find any that I could see as authentic, but
I just barely sent you one, Brando, if you want to pull it up.
Okay.
And this is the claim here is that this is a CBS reporter, and he's waiting for the protesting for these cheers to stop because CBS is trying to push one side of the story. But these are people chanting, "We love Trump and we love Bibi," allegedly in Iran.
In Iran?
Yeah.
What does that mean? The main thing I wanted to focus on this. All right. Hold on.
Okay, pause there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see there, he reads something from his phone, and they're like, they don't want you to highlight this. He's like, well, I am. So it just kind of goes to show more that you are definitely being propagandized. And so whether you think it's good or you think it's bad, it looks like the majority of the reaction from the Iranian people that have had experience living underneath this regime, are very happy with this. And
very similar to Venezuela.
Yeah. And so we highlighted this video from a Latter-day Saint from Iran a few episodes ago when we talked about this. But if you want to click that, Brando, she actually wrote an article for the Deseret News just recently. And if you
so that was from Washington, D.C., by the way.
Yeah.
That quote. It wasn't from Iran.
That video
we
just watched? Oh, okay.
See, this is why we need to double check it. But anyways, still shows you that you're being propagandized. So if what's her name? Scroll down a tiny bit. Yeah, right there. Shima Baradaran
Bowman. Bauman.
So she's an Iranian Latter-day Saint, and she wrote a phenomenal article that I'm going to link in the description. I suggest everyone read because it gives you a perspective from someone that has experience with not only herself, but her family members living underneath this Islamic regime for the last 50 years. And I just want to read the beginning here. She says, "This morning as the United States launched strikes against targets inside my homeland of Iran, I wept to know my people were no longer standing alone. Yet my phone filled with messages of concern. I'm so sorry. I'm praying for your family. My thoughts are with you in this difficult time. I love that my friends understand that this is personal since my family story is tied to Iran. Yet I don't think many people appreciate what this moment means for Iranians like me around the world. In the hours since, I've seen prominent commentators and news outlets condemn the strikes as reckless or unlawful. I also understand that instinct. As a lawyer and as someone who usually sees nuance in nearly every political question, I'm rarely comfortable declaring anything morally simple."
And
Scroll
then
down a little
what
bit.
peanut butter does to dogs.
Yeah, and then in that. It said, "But this moment feels unusually clear. This is a historic moment for freedom, democracy, and human rights." Okay. So if you go read the rest of her article, she shares a very different point of view from a lot of the political commentators that you've seen come out and condemn Trump and say this is unlawful, which to just get that argument out of the way first. I woke up that morning and I saw, oh, they killed the leader of Iran. Like, that is an act of war. Doesn't that have to like go through some approval process through Congress or something to do that? And I'm like, this has got to be illegal. What are we talking about? And if you click that Google search, no, for the war, yeah. So then I learned of something called the War Powers Resolution Act of 1973. So just a summary on it. It's a federal law that was passed over Nixon's veto to check the executive branch's power to commit U.S. forces to armed conflict without congressional consent. It requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying troops and limits unauthorized engagements to 60 days and mandates consultation in every possible instance. So essentially what that means is that he just has to give them the heads up 48 hours in advance. I assume that happened. And then it allows for at least 60 days of war, essentially, of battles before it needs further approval from Congress to then continue after that. Okay.
Yeah. What are the stipulations? Are there stipulations in there about like what allows him? Like, does there have to be a state of emergency, or like, is it just like he can just do it?
Yeah. I mean, from what it says here of the summary, it says president must notify Congress within 48 hours of introducing forces into hostilities or situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated. Then it says time limit: forces must be removed within 60 days with a potential 30-day extension for safe withdrawal unless Congress declares war, authorizes the action, or is physically unable to meet.
Oh, interesting. So we could go on for these 60 days and then Congress could say, hey, you have to pull them out, and and they can't do anything about. Trump can't override that.
Yeah. Or they can say, hey, we need 30 more days to do it safely, continue actions up until then. Or the U.S. Congress like officially declares a state of war. So that's kind of the legalities behind it. And I thought the same as many of you, is how is this legal to just go and do that? Because imagine if someone, and there were, because I was seeing people online, they're like, Trump's not declaring war. This isn't declaring war. I'm like, bro, if some foreign nation came into our country, murdered our president, yeah, bro, we're going to clap back, and that's an act of war. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so this is the technicalities behind it. We'll see what ensues in the coming days, but just to give further clarity on how this is even possible. Okay. And so again, when I woke up and I saw this, it was pretty frustrating because I was remembering statements made by J.D. Vance and Donald Trump and other people of the cabinet saying things like this not too long ago. This is a quote from J.D. Vance talking in October of 2024.
Yeah. But America's interest is sometimes going to be distinct. Like sometimes we're going to have overlapping interests, and sometimes we're going to have distinct interests. And our interest, I think, very much is in not going to war with Iran, right? It would be a huge distraction of resources. It would be massively expensive to our country. Yeah. But America's interest.
Okay, pause there. So here's the thing about this whole Iran, U.S., Israel conflict is this isn't like a new spur of the moment that's happened within the last year, okay? If you remember from our previous video that we did covering the developments of this heating up, you remember that we played a video, and we'll pull it up here again, from the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, parroting the same thing for the last 30 years now, okay? And it's one of the things that led to the strikes that happened last June, where we bombed Fordo, their alleged nuclear sites that they were developing nuclear weapons. But he's been calling for regime change and hiding behind the guise of they're weeks away, they're days away from having a nuclear weapon, okay? We'll just play this again to refresh your memory, all right?
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb. Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade. Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons. Next thing you'll see is a nuclear bomb in the World Trade Center. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
When was the first one that he announced? Was in the 80s?
1995.
1995.
So the dates here are 1995, 2006, 2012, 2015, 2018, 2025.
They've been years and weeks away for a long time.
Exactly. And so there's an aspect to this that obviously it is in Israel's interest to have the Islamic regime of Iran be toppled because they are an imminent threat to Israel for many different reasons. But clearly, Benjamin Netanyahu has been fear-mongering this for 30 years now. Like that's not a controversial thing to say. Like, he said it at one point, 2 different points in 2006 and 2012, that they are weeks away.
But why is it in our interest? Is that a very complicated answer?
So yeah, here's and I don't know where I stand on all this, but I'm just going to present a couple sides. One, in a globalized world, whether we like it or not, because of technology, we are insanely globalized. You can fly anywhere in the world for fairly cheap. You can see everything through social media and through the internet. So we are a globalized world. There's trade happening also worldwide. So someone's got to be in charge. So, no matter what, someone's going to assert and be in charge. And so the question is, do you want to be in charge or do you not want to be in charge? And if you want to be the country that's in charge, which we decided, when we started the petrodollar, which is essentially where we said, hey, all oil is going to be traded on the dollar, and that kind of cemented us as a global superpower. Once you make that decision, you can't really abdicate it, right? So that's one side. That's one side of it, is like, you've decided you wanted to be in charge, so you got to be in charge. So that's one side of the coin.
Interesting.
The other side of the coin is, okay, well, maybe we want to be a superpower, but do we want to be more defensively postured or offensively postured? And when you look at Iran, yes, they chant death to America, but why are they chanting death to America? Well, maybe it's because America's getting involved in a region beyond their interests. And they're doing things that seem to be more offensive rather than defensive, and be more asserting dominance rather than collaborating for oil or resources or things like that, right?
Oh, wow.
And so, like, there are multiple sides to this story, and I don't know what's right. At the end of the day, though, do I want to be in the country that is in charge of everything? Probably.
I know, but it's tough to say, because maybe it had one of the reasons that they're chanting death to America is the over 1 million Iraqi civilians that were killed in the U.S. war on terror. Like maybe that has to do with it a little bit. And so it's just tough because, like you see here, obviously Netanyahu has been fear-mongering and goading the United States to get in this war for 30 plus years now. And it's really frustrating when I see stuff like this. And then if we go to the video where Donald Trump is basically announcing this is what's happening, right?
This was posted at like midnight.
Yeah, midnight
of the
44.
attack, yeah.
On Saturday. And so we're going to watch the first. So we're going to watch the first and the end of this video. The middle, he's talking about how they can't have a nuclear weapon and that would be really bad for the United States of America, which, I tend to agree that it's probably not good for an authoritarian, tyrannical Islamic state to have a nuclear weapon. Okay? I'll agree with that. But we're going to watch the beginning of this and the end. So the two, to me, standout messages of why we are doing this, and think as you're watching this, what is the reason behind this that you gain from his words here?
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people.
Pause.
It's
okay. So right there at the very beginning, he says, our mission, our objective is to defend the American people by taking out the vicious regime of Iran, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then his ending message is this to the Iranian people, all right?
Death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach.
Pause.
This is the...
Okay, so what's the vibe of the reason that you see?
To overturn the regime and to free the Iranian people.
Yeah, which, great. Yeah, free the Iranian people. And it's definitely to destroy the regime, a regime change, okay? Like that is undisputable from watching that video, him announcing why we are doing these operations, which then brings great frustration when I watched this morning, the Secretary of War, he comes out and
just watch it.
Just watch it. Just watch. So this was this morning in a press conference.
Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it.
Okay.
Turns out the regime...
What?
So you have Donald Trump saying initially, we are going to kill the regime, the evil regime. And then he says a message to the Iranian people. Once we have taken out the regime, go in and take control of your government. Change it to a new regime. This is the hour is at hand for your freedom. And so it's like, yeah, that's pretty the blatant message from that initial video. And then it's like, if that is the mission, let's just be honest with that. You know what I'm saying? That's what's frustrating to me, because then he comes out and says, yeah, no, this isn't for regime change.
Well, the reason they're doing that is because they ran on, we're done with regime change wars, because historically they've been really bad. You look at what happened in Libya. You look at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. It became even more destabilized. ISIS comes out. The Taliban still exists. Like, nothing that was seriously productive came from any of the regime change wars that have happened. I pray and I hope, and the weirdos out there that want this to, it seems like they want this to fail and devolve into chaos. There are people out there. I don't know why you would want that. Even if you don't agree with what is happening, you should want the success so that way it doesn't devolve into chaos.
Yeah.
But that is why they're doing this. It's a war of words that's going on as well. Of like, we ran on this, our constituents don't want a regime change war, so we're going to change this regime, but we don't want them to think that it's a regime change war.
Yeah, I know. Because when you have him speaking to military commanders in December, you see him say exactly this.
The War Department will not be distracted by democracy building, interventionism, undefined wars, regime change, climate change, woke moralizing, and feckless nation building.
Pause.
The war.
And so, yeah, it is something that they have said multiple times. And so then when I hear the president say initially, we're going to take out the regime, and then he calls to the Iranian people specifically, take over your government. It's like, what other message am I supposed to get from that?
Yeah.
And then when I see that comes out, he's like, no, that's not what we're doing. It's like, bro, make it make sense.
Yeah. And this is the issue with trust. And I think on one end, Trump doesn't care because he already, like, he can't run again. So he doesn't need the trust of the American people. He does obviously care about his legacy. But I think what he thinks is, like, independent of what people think now, his legacy will play out over time, which may be true. There may be, and, there is an aspect to being a leader of a nation where you got to make the hard decisions. It's like, as a father, there are things that my children don't want to do, right? And obviously we're adults, we're not children, and we shouldn't be treated like children. But because I'm in that leadership position in my family, I have to make decisions that they don't like. And sometimes I have to change my mind based on something that I said earlier. Earlier I said, hey, we're going to do this. But now looking at the situation, we have to do this, and my children get pissed at it. One thing, though, that I think helps so that trust isn't completely eroded is, like, what if we explained a little bit more why, like, if you just had the transparency of being like, hey, I know we said we weren't going to do these regime change wars, but then I got in and we got this intel, this intel, this intel, this intel. And because of that, I think this is a situation where we need to do it. I know I ran on that, but I hope you can trust me as your leader that this is why I need to make this decision. But that never happens in politics. You just go ahead and do it. You just go ahead and do it, and then you just let your PR people try to figure it out.
Yeah, because here's the thing. We can watch that J.D. Vance clip from 2024, and then he's saying that it's not in America's interest to go to war with Iran. And then today in 2026, there could be circumstances have changed so drastically in which they now have intel that shows us, yeah, it actually is in America's best interest. But the thing is that the same things that have just been brought up for 30 years now, they can't have a nuclear weapon. In June, we destroyed all their nuclear progress, but allegedly, because they won't make a deal, then now we're going to bomb them. And as he said in the beginning and the end of his speech, we are going to change the regime, you know what I'm saying? And so that's what's frustrating. Now, another thing that I noticed with this is that I saw this interesting clip from TPUSA, which their podcast has dropped to like 199th in the rankings, where it was obviously pretty high when
I think
Charlie
I want to say it was in the top 10.
Yeah,
when Charlie was on.
So I mean, for obvious reasons, but then I see them like using his name in ways that kind of rub me the wrong way, especially when then we're going to go back and watch Charlie Kirk's opinions on this whole situation, even after the U.S. bombed Iran back in June. So this was from the TPUSA Charlie Kirk show.
He also always did have trust with the president, and he would look for the bright side of things. And he was an American patriot, so he would pray for our success once that began. And I just want to say that to offer perspective on how I think he would have felt about this. And that's not to use Charlie as a shield. That is not to say everything just revolves around him, because he's not with us anymore. But I know all of us are feeling the lack of Charlie in a moment like this, because he was a natural leader of the movement.
Well, I think that's also, like, as soon as all of this broke out, you saw that social media immediately went to go find Charlie clips, because he still is, even in death, like the leading voice on a matter like this.
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and it makes me upset, though, because for these people that didn't actually know Charlie, like you said, in private, he would be not happy with the situation, and he would express his thoughts. You would oftentimes see him talk about it on the show, but then as soon as this would happen, he would have trust in the president. He would try to calm people down, and so it's really irritating for me to see so many people on social media have the opposite reaction, to use his voice to actually cause chaos, to actually cause fear of the situation, to actually cause hatred of President Trump in this whole ordeal, when actually that's not what he would want.
Well, and
so a couple reasons why this bothers me a little bit, right? One, they're going back and saying, oh, if Charlie was here, this is what he would say and do. And it's like, that seems a tiny bit manipulative. And then that other guy on the far right, when he's talking about how as soon as this happened, the internet went and used Charlie's words to cause more chaos. Because if he was here, and that's what he said, he would publicly show, trust and faith in the president, but privately he'd probably be frustrated with what's going on. Now, if we look back to his words on this specific subject of regime change war in Iran, he's pretty unequivocal with his statements. And I'll just show this clip here. It's a little bit longer, but honestly, it's a really solid clip that kind of encompasses his opinion on this subject.
Let's do some updates about Israel and Iran and potentially the United States.
So this is in June 17th of 2025, after we had already bombed the nuclear sites.
Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. Here is Lindsey Graham. This is just lunacy. This kind of analysis is not helpful. This kind of approach, this kind of argument, it has nothing to do with nuclear weapons at this point. This is now that we want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. You have underground Christians. You don't really have many Jews left in Persia. But also you have secular younger Persians. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme. We must go take off the head of the snake right now. Play cut 285.
be all in, President Trump, in helping Israel eliminate the nuclear threat. If we need to provide bombs to Israel, provide bombs. If we need to fly planes with Israel, do joint operations. But here's the bigger question. Wouldn't the world be better off if the Ayatollahs went away and replaced by something better? Wouldn't Iran be better off? It's time to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen. Let's close that chapter soon and start a new chapter in the Mideast, one of tolerance, hope, and peace.
Okay, that sounds good, but that's pathologically insane. I'm sorry, it is. How do you know it's going to be better? Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful, but maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. Lindsey Graham is so consistently out of his mind, it's hard to even comprehend. Iran is hugely diverse. It is a massive country. Do the people agitating for war even know that? Because be clear, regime change is war. Just to understand, regime change is not like changing the head coach at the Chicago Bears. It's not how it works. It's not like a clean transfer. Typically in the Mideast, it's very messy, creates a quagmire, and then there is civil war. Do you understand how large Iran is? It's massive. It's a very big country. It's mountainous. It makes Afghanistan and Iraq look like a cakewalk. Just look at this beast of a country with all the different regions, all the different dialects. If we could put that up on screen. And then you have a major refugee concern of Mohammedans that will come to Europe and endanger more Christians and Jews, and Mohammedans that will come to America. No, that is wrong. So that is one extreme. The other extreme is one that I have deep respect and reverence for, because I actually think if we had that other extreme, we would not have invaded Iraq. This other extreme is philosophically important. It's important to consider, and that's the Ron Paul extreme. And I love Ron Paul. Ron Paul is awesome. I would have Ron Paul on the show regularly. He is a hero because Ron Paul had the courage to challenge old sacred cows of the Republican Party. He made people defend the indefensible. But the Ron Paul perspective is strictly isolationist. I actually agree with a lot of this other extreme, a lot. I think it's healthy to have this other extreme more than the neoconservative extreme, because this extreme has been underrepresented in the public dialogue and discourse the last 20 years. So you have these two extremes. I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine. We know what the neoconservatives believe. I do think hearing out, and honestly, I agree with a lot of the more, I think isolationist is used as a pejorative, but let's just say restrained community. Take out the Ayatollah. Resist that temptation. That's not prudence. That's not self-control. That's something else talking. That's a zeal. And that very same zeal got us involved in a pile of garbage in Iraq. It all felt good with shock and awe in March of 2003. We're unstoppable. We're going to take Iraq in a weekend. Turns out, it didn't work that way. A lot of people died. A lot of Americans died unnecessarily.
So you see that and you're like, calling for regime change is pathologically insane, and then giving all those arguments to why it's not just like swapping out the head coach of a professional sports team. It means war. When you drop bombs on a country, it means war. When you take out, even if he's an evil dictator, when you take him out, he's not acting alone. He's got a whole posse of people and commanders and a military around him. Now, like we saw in the beginning, the overwhelmingly positive reactions from the Iranian people that have lived under this tyrannical regime, obviously they're very happy about it. But with this comes a huge power vacuum that I pray it all works out. I pray that now that we're in the mess that we're in, I hope that somehow, some way, it has a net positive and doesn't, and it's not like World War I where we see it didn't happen from one night to the next day. It was this happened, and then a couple years later this happened, and then it led to a massive global conflict that I pray does not occur. But to then see the Charlie Kirk show presenting as if like, oh, this is what he would say, makes me a little queasy, especially when I go back and I see his actual words and his arguments against this.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is when it comes to who's going to fill the void, historically, and you can get this from reading history of the Crusades. You can get this from learning about like World War I and what was happening with like Lawrence of Arabia and stuff like this. The Arab people, they respect and respond to power, right? And strength. Like that's what they go to. It's not the same as us, which is like freedom and democracy in a sense, right? The West responds to that. And so at the end of the day, yeah, you might have a large subset of people in Iran that's like, yes, we want to be westernized, we want freedom, we want whatever. But are they the ones who are strong enough to get in there? And are they, because there's going to be warring factions there are still Islamists who want Sharia law, and they're probably a large part, like millions of the country, who want Sharia law. And they're going to be the ones who are willing to do the violence necessary to fill that power vacuum. So are we so sure that all of a sudden it's going to be like some, Barack Obama hope guy that's going to get and be like, hey, we want democracy? I'm not so sure about that because it's a different part of the world and they think completely different than us. The other thing that I want to say is the thing that really scares me about this. Let's say it is successful and Iran becomes, the new Vegas of the Middle East, where everyone goes to vacation and you gamble and do the exact opposite of what Sharia law is, right?
Mm-hmm. And you can show your hair without
getting beat to death, which I'm only laughing because it's absurd to have that mindset.
It is absurd.
But let's say that does happen. The thing that scares me is we are completely changing the way that war has been done historically. And what I mean is this. Historically, war and conquest between two kingdoms and kings ended eventually with the king being killed by the other king and all of his sons being killed by the other king, right? But that was after their armies went up together and they defeated their army, and then the king was destroyed. And one reason for that, like what would happen is kings would meet together in the center of the battlefield. They would shake each other's hands and they say, these are my terms. These are my terms. Do you agree to my terms? No. Okay, well, let's fight. And then they'd fight. And there was some sort of order to this, right? And it kept things from devolving into immediate chaos. But because of today's, and this is actually what chess is based off of, you have to kill the king. Even though the king isn't that powerful, mm-hmm. You don't win until you kill the king, right?
You have to kill most of the other
You have to
pieces.
kill the other pieces. And there isn't one piece that can jump over and
drone strike
you, right?
Yes.
But this is the thing that's freaky, is now we are setting the precedent that before we engage with you on a ground war, we are going to blow you up. And we're going to chop off the head of the snake. And the reason why this scares me is because now all the heads of the snake who have their finger over the big red button know that it's possible that there is no buildup to them being schwacked.
Like
they
Russia,
could be the first
China.
one. Yeah, they could be the first one gone. And that's what's scary. Is now we're all of a sudden creating this precedence where world leaders are going to be nervous that the United States of America is going to just take them out, right? Where before, and I know this is terrible because it's at the loss of tons of human lives, but at least when armies were going at it, especially after the advent of weapons of mass destruction like nuclear bombs, the presidents of countries were able to sit back and let all their people die for them, which is evil and wicked, but it kept people's fingers off of the big red button. But we're getting rid of that, and that's what makes me nervous. And war is evil, and there are a lot of evil people in the world. But we have to be wise and prudent, as Charlie Kirk was saying, on how exactly we want to push forth good values, because if we do it in an untemperate way, it can yield terrible consequences that we didn't foresee.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Really good point.
And so anyone that's going out there and acting like this is so cut and dry, I would highly challenge and be dubious of that person's opinion, because just as we've shown here, many different sides of this Dungeons and Dragons die. Don't they have like 12 different sides?
I don't know.
We need to
like
ask
20
Dave Butler.
side. Dave Butler knows. Also, that chess thing that I shared,
Yeah.
he shared that with me. So
Oh,
that's brought to you by
Shout out
Dave
Dave
Butler.
Butler.
Who's the one with the real anime and cats in their
Probably Dave Butler. But okay, then there was this other clip from the press conference this morning that when I look at the Book of Mormon, I'm like, leave my head scratching, being like, is this some fulfillment of prophecy in not a great way for the U.S. military?
Let me speak straight to you, the joint force, our warriors on the front lines. This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979, and since the rudderless wars of hubris, my generation, our generation, endured. Don't listen to the noise. Just stay focused. Our commander-in-chief is steady at the wheel. We face a determined enemy, but you are better. But we must prove it every single day. History doesn't care if we're tired, if we're scared, or if the fight feels big. It demands warriors who rise anyway. Peace through strength, the warrior ethos, lethality, unity of purpose, those are not slogans. They're the beating heart of what it means to wear the uniform, that uniform. You think clearly under fire, you act decisively in chaos, you uphold the Constitution, and you uphold our country without hesitation. We are not defenders anymore. We are warriors, trained to kill the enemy and break their will. History is watching.
Pause.
Be the force.
He says a lot of stuff that if I were in the position to go to war, it's like rah, rah, USA, you know what I'm saying? But then what he says there at the end is like, we are not defenders anymore. We are warriors. And some other things when Trump, he goes into talking about how there was at least 3 U.S. service members that have been killed thus far. President Trump did a little press conference offering condolences. Pete Hegseth, he touched on that, and he said that we are going to avenge the blood of those fallen Americans, which, I mean, in some sense, like, yeah, let's avenge the blood. It's like, why was the blood spilt in the first place? And then when he says, we are not defenders anymore, we are warriors, like, I can't help but turn to Alma chapter 43 in verse 46. When Cap Moroni is talking about the reason that they are fighting this war. And he says, and they were doing that which they felt it was their duty, which they owed to their God. For the Lord had said unto them, and also unto their fathers, that inasmuch as ye are not guilty of the first offense, neither the second, ye shall not suffer yourselves to be slain by the hands of your enemies. And again the Lord hath said, that ye shall defend your families even unto bloodshed. Therefore for this cause were the Nephites contending with the Lamanites to defend themselves and their families and their lands and their country and their rights and their religion. Multiple times on this show, we have then gone through the timeline of exactly when the Nephites switched from being defensive in their acts of war to then offensive. And within a matter of less than a year, then they were overtaken by the Lamanites because they were fighting offensively rather than in the defense of their freedom, their lands, their religion, and things like that. And so, look, as a red-blooded American, like Hayden said, I hope this succeeds, and I want to be on the team that doesn't get blown to smithereens. Like, I think naturally that's something, but it's just troubling to me when I look at the whole history of where this began and how it's been propagandized to get us to this point. Mm-hmm. And it's troubling when I read those verses.
And along the way, it's not that Iran has been guiltless on stuff. So, like, we all, so, yes. You know, think about the hundreds of Marines of our brothers, our brothers in arms, who were blown up in Beirut, the Beirut barracks bombing. I think it was something like 300 Marines just blown up. That was coordinated by Iran. Obviously, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, so much of these terrorist organizations that are murdering Christians, are killing Jews, are murdering Muslims who don't, cover their hair. Like, those people are supported by Iran. So the thing that's so hard about this situation is it's been developing for decades. And so, yeah, if the Beirut bombing happened and then we went in there and killed the Ayatollah, it'd be a little bit easier to be like, okay. But over the last little bit, when it comes to American service members and Americans, right? Like, the question is, like, what is provoking this? It doesn't seem like there's anything immediate that has been provoking this, which is, that's the issue with this all. The last thing I want to say in regard to this is there's an impulse, because we believe in the second coming of Christ. We believe in like a last days wrapping up wars, rumors of wars, to just be like, yeah, this is supposed to happen, and to almost be fatalistic about it, as well as maybe even participating in it. And I think some people have that idea of just like, hey, this is the last days, the battle of Gog and Magog, Armageddon, it's going to happen, put me in, coach. And it's just like, just because it's prophesied in Scripture doesn't mean it's good. There's
or that we want to be the ones
or
to
that we want
fulfill
to be to fulfill it. And so I think that's something to ask the question, especially, with us as Latter-day Saints wanting to be peacemakers. Just because it's prophesied doesn't mean we want to be in those prophecies. There's a lot of bad prophecies that happen. And so I think we shouldn't be fatalistic. We should be seeking to be peacemakers. And things are complicated. And I just pray, and we should be praying and fasting that peace does abound. This earth, is part of our theological belief. This earth's supposed to be turned into the Garden of Eden. I think there's multiple ways that can happen. I don't think it has to be absolute destruction and rebirth. I think that if we wanted to, if we allowed the natural man to be put off, that could happen that way. But we should be purveyors of peace, not mongers of war. And we live in crazy times, guys.
Yeah, and so, again, to give a little recap summary of this, all right? We have here, just like Jesus said in Matthew 24, he said, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of war, see that ye be not troubled." Okay? First and foremost, find a way to do that, to not be troubled. Second, the Iranian people, it seems like overwhelmingly, they're excited and they're happy about this, right? So from that standpoint, a lot of people like Shima, who wrote that article that we'll link in the description, are going to be happy about this, right? Then we have Donald Trump coming out and saying, look, we're coming in to take out the regime. Iranian people, this is your moment. Once we've done it and there's a power vacuum, go ahead and take control of your country, because this is going to be your only chance. Saying, look, we're going to regime change this. Then Pete Hegseth comes out and he says, no, this is not a regime change war. The regime did change and it's good. So it's like, let's just be honest there. And then we have Bibi Netanyahu saying for the last 30 years that they're weeks away from a nuclear bomb. So therefore we need to attack them and overturn Hezbollah, or overturn the Islamic regime. And so, again, we're being propagandized in every which way, and it just rings more and more true. It's going to be quoted for the umpteenth time on this show that President Nelson said, in the coming days, it will not be possible to survive spiritually without the constant guiding voice of the Holy Spirit. And so if we're not seeking that out, just like I did Saturday morning, I'm going to get all raged out and then not look at the other side of the 12-sided Dungeons and Dragons die and probably miss the mark. And so what I advocate for is prudence and prayer in your communications with other people that have differing opinions from you. Listen to them and try not to be victims of propaganda from whatever side or algorithm that is currently in your feed. And let us just
propagandized.
Say again?
Be equally propagandized.
Yeah. And here's the thing. convert yourself further to Jesus Christ. I hope all this chaos in the world just shows you why more and more and more we need to be committed disciples to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because ultimately following the Prince of Peace is going to be the best move, because we've read the end of the book. We know who wins, and to put that identifier far above any sort of opinion or political party in which we affiliate with, that of being a disciple of Jesus Christ and a son or daughter of God. And so, Brando, unless you have further comments on this, we've got something to end the show with.
I just want to reiterate the part of the verse that says, "Be not troubled." I don't think that means you can't like be concerned. I just think it means have faith that Jesus Christ is going to come. Jesus Christ is going to come someday. We still don't know when, and all wars will cease and it will be over and we'll win. I know that's kind of a simple way of saying it, but just it gives me hope.
Yeah. So, anyways, excited to read the comment section on this one. I feel like there's going to be a lot of opinions on all sides. But in our segment of Building the Kingdom, right, where we focus on something strictly happening in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, if we go to, Brando, if you just want to type in Church Newsroom here, one of the first things that'll pop up is that they released a new Easter message, which I watched it. It's pretty awesome. But if we just go to their, like not the YouTube channel, just the Church Newsroom, like, yeah.
You know, the all-time best Easter message was the first Because of Him one.
Bro.
Hold up, bro. Okay, we have something queued up. So if you go to the Church Newsroom, they have the Easter video, and you'll be able to go watch it there. It's got some new actors that portray the disciples and Christ himself that I haven't seen before. It's pretty interesting. So I invite you to go watch it. But I wanted to highlight the greatest Easter message that has ever been produced, okay? And if you think the one this year tops this one, let me know in the comments. But, Brando, rewind it to the start, because we need every single millisecond to be viewed of this.
In a coming day, fear will die. Pain will die. Loneliness will die. Despair will die. In a coming day, sadness will die. Sickness will die. Disability, deformity, darkness, anxiety will die. War will die. Hatred will die. In a coming day, death will die. And we all will live again because of him.
I don't know if that was the one you were talking about, Aiden, but shout out to the beautiful voice of Alex Boyer, bro.
There's one thing that's not propaganda.
What's that? Oh,
that video.
It is
It's not
propaganda.
It is
Here's
propaganda.
the thing. Propaganda
Okay.
is everywhere. It's just like, what are you being propagandized for?
To
And I
follow
think
Jesus?
Follow Jesus
or
is good.
To, follow a man.
I just tried to drop a bar, okay?
Yeah, Brando, you're going to get pushback, bro.
Dude, can I
having two Paul brothers on this episode? You're cooked.
I would watch that on the mission. Like when I was in the MTC, you'd get like the hour of or a couple hours on Sunday where you could go watch like Mormon messages or whatever.
Yeah.
I would just put that thing on repeat, bro, and just cry. I love that, dude. Oh,
Dude,
man.
here's the thing. If you get anything from this episode, okay, it's bust open your scriptures, read the words of life, and further convert yourself to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because it is only by him and through him that we will be able to overcome sin and death and return to the presence of him and the Father. Amidst all the craziness that's happening in the world, that is the one sure thing that you can take to the freaking bank, is that Jesus Christ, through him, we will be able to overcome and ascend above all things, because he descended below all things. God bless you. And remember, until next time, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless you.